Hello everyone, you can maintain peace now. We are about to begin our second session for the day. Also, I request the participants who are outside can come inside and take their respective seats. We are already late with our schedule. Is everyone inside? Okay. Good afternoon everyone. I welcome you all for the second session of today's program. I know that we had our scrumptious lunch just now, and then I hope that you are not feeling drowsy for the session. I hope you will be awakened for the session, but don't worry at all. This session will be very informative and very interesting, actually, I would say. The speakers, we have great speakers, we have sharing their experiential views and all. So this will be very, very interesting. I hope you not feel drowsy at all. Okay, so today's session, for this session, our topic is panel discussion on universal ethics. For this, we have our chairperson, Professor Ravindran Ji. To give you little information, little introduction about Professor Ravindran Ji, he is a former global leader for SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management, with global experience in industry. Both as a leader of people in business for almost 40 years, a practitioner of behavioral arts beyond science, he has explored path-breaking concepts that offers rare insight to industry, government, and society. Seminal work includes the behavioral dimension of innovation to breakthrough mindset to a potential in the pursuit of excellence. Ravi is a chair professor, coaching and leadership development, Tata Institute of Social Science, and the founder of several organizations that deal with behavioral science and training. Also, he is the founder of Goodness Project and Goodness Mobile. Now, I request Professor Ravindran Ji to please proceed with the session. Sir, please. Yeah.
Thank you. I promise you, you will not go to sleep. I will keep coming up like a bad penny and waking all of you up. Okay? All right, so let's stand up. Please, indulge me. I'm an old man. Please stand up. Put your hands... Hey, taking an oath. This is dangerous stuff. I am the goodness generation. With universal ethics, I will change the world. For better. Thank you. I was serious. I'm not going to let you sleep. My journey with universal ethics began about a year and a half back. And when I heard these two words for the first time, my reaction was, yeah. I know what it is. Unfortunately for me, on the other side was a much more well-read gentleman. And he turned around and said, so what is it? Ethics means, integrity, being and doing good. Okay, so what is universal? Universal, that which is there everywhere. He said, you haven't heard these words before, right? I said, no, I have not heard these words before. That's about a year and a half back. I'll share with you my very, very simplistic experience of, firstly, the words itself. Universal, there's something very unique about human beings. And that is, we have this ability to put ourselves in others' place. Think about it. We are the only life form in the cosmos which has this unique ability us in others' place. Second, what is universal is we all like to be treated with fairness and compassion. Is there anybody here who would not like to be treated with fairness and compassion? Rhetoric question. I've tried this all across the world, everywhere, doesn't matter which language you speak. Speak in Hindi, I speak 6 languages, I ask in any of those, the answer is true, common everywhere. This is universal. We like to be treated with fairness and compassion. that's where my journey began, that if all of us want to be treated with fairness and compassion, and we can do that to ourselves and to other people and other living things on the planet, then the world becomes a better place. Simple. 31st December 2017, which is New Year's last year, so 1st January 2018, I spent New Year's at the Sarnath University in Varanasi. I had the occasion to meet His Holiness, and I told him, I think I know what universal ethics is. He was the one who had told me, you haven't heard these words before. Professor Ravindran. Yes, Professor Ravindran had not. And when I shared this with him, he says, wonderful, now go and tell this to 1 million people. Okay. How do we do this? He says, work on something. Find out. You have an industry background. You're supposed to be not averse to technology. You don't seem too old. So take near and let's take this message of universal ethics to million people. That is the experience that in the Goodness Project and creation of a mobile application to simplify and massify understanding of universal ethics. Where did the content for this come from? Well, the content for this came from this very place, Tibet House. And the person who introduced me to Tibet House is none other than the first speaker for the post-lunch session, Professor Tanuja Sharma. May I welcome Tanuja Sharma to the... A little more energy than that. Yeah. Come on, guys. Come, Tanuja. I need that book. Please.
So why don't you just say 2 lines?
The first introduction that I did say is she introduced me to Geshe-la. She said I should meet somebody and brought me to meet Geshe-la. And Geshe-la, strangely, I didn't even wait 30 seconds outside. I just got a meeting with him. And that happened 25th of January last year. And a year later, on 25th of January this year, we launched the mobile application in this very room, thanks to Geshe-la. I'm very happy to say that in the first 4 weeks, we reached out to over 21,000 people. So we are on our way to 1 million. I don't know how we'll do this, but we are on our way. Yeah. Professor Tanuja Sharma, I don't do this. Sorry, Professor and G bit. She's Tanuja to me. She's a person whom I've known for a very long time. An academic by mind. A wonderful, wonderful believer in goodness from the heart. I don't know too much about Tibetan history and stories. If I say Ekalavya, does it make sense to you? Yeah? Some nods. Ekalavya was the person who learned archery when Dronacharya, the master guru, was teaching Arjuna. Ekalavya was hiding in the woods and seeing what was happening. So whenever Tanuja Sharma teaches people, I'm the Ekalavya who's hiding in the woods, I hear whatever she has to say, learn from it, and I think I've become very good at it now. Okay? Where did she disappear? Tanuja is currently a full professor at the Management Development Institute, MDI Gurgaon. Her PhD from FMS, University of Delhi, was in performance management, and she received the Mercer Award 2015, given by Mercer Human Resource Consulting. I'm going to run through I can't run through the whole thing. It's a full page.
Yeah.
All right. My request and suggestion to you is experience Tanuja the way she is. We do have a lot of time, Tanuja, so don't restrict yourself to 10 minutes. Go the full 20 and enjoy the interaction with the people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ravi. And my heartfelt thanks to all the people who've spared their time and sitting here in the hall today. I think I need to stand so that I can see till the end. And that will be very fair to all of us. And usually I see His Holiness here because I am a student of Tibet House. So possibly behind the screen now, but in our hearts anyway. So I'll begin this whole thing by offering my prayers to His Holiness, seeking His blessings, which has been very meaningful in my personal life. The whole session is on experiential sharing. So I would say that yes, the education happened, the professorship happened, and but the knowledge, which is the base of education, and the education of inner happened when I actually heard His Holiness first time in Dharamshala. It was a very touristy trip. I have shared earlier, so I'm keeping it brief. I just walked in as a person who just wanted some peace. And it's just that a Tibetan couple, a completely stranger person to me, met in bus, hand-holded me. Where are you staying? I said, I just walked in. Oh, don't worry. Should I go by that?
Yeah.
Should I do it? Yeah. So is this place okay? Is it? You want it? Yeah, sure. That's all right. This is working. Yeah, this is fine. So the journey began. I think my days of blessings began. I didn't have an entry pass. I didn't have an accommodation. I never traveled like that. It was the first time in my life. And they ensured that I get a room next to the temple. They ensured that I enter the teaching and imagine what a topic it was. Ultimate and conventional reality, nothing less. And it was in Tibetan, by the way. I don't know the language. I'm not very happy saying it because I have spent so much time getting taught from Geshe-la, being with my best of friends here, that I think I should pick up the language subject to my talent for the language, which is possibly not very great, but coming back to it. Whatever His Holiness was saying, I don't know, the way he was talking, something was making sense, and then again a Tibetan friend sitting next suddenly extended a translator. And when he started talking about the conventional and ultimate reality, which went for 2 days where I was, I really thought, am I in education? Is it a right education? What are we doing to ourselves? I'm a second generation education person. My father has been a professor. He was different. He was different, possibly far more blessed. It's experience sharing, so I'm including, and I hope it is okay with you. Because he was a historian, he was an archaeologist who added to India's history. And why am I sharing it? Because one of the most prominent site of his, and that site is called Kaushambi, where the whole world from Berkeley to Afghanistan came to work with, was nothing but a place called Kaushambi. Even it exists even now near UP, where Buddha himself was present as a living teacher. So he was far more blessed, I would say. I grew up seeing the museum and seeing what he got from there, but that was it. The science took over, then management took over, then business could not really touch my heart, that Ravi knows, but business education took over. And I always felt a little disconnected. Did my work, we were trained to be on top in terms of merit. So that happened. That happened. All first, then good classes, good training, blah, blah, blah. There was such hollowness I was, living with. I found my colleagues, my neighbors, and especially my students, best of the people. In the class, no. In the class, like, I want to hear A, can you tell me A? All was objective and external, objective and external. And I wanted, because of my grooming, because of my belief, I wanted them to experience not only know things. But was there a hunger? No. The hunger was input, process, output. Input, process, output. Very systemic interventions. And then, just because that opportunity I got with His Holiness, of possibly 5% I gained out of the whole thing, started searching in Delhi, what can I do next? Just to cut it short, I think I started getting my quota of blessings. Very next thing was, we were taken to His Holiness Guru's Samadhi in Dharamshala from Tushita Center, where I went for the Introduction to Buddhism course. And I just got into a minute to 2 minutes Samadhi. Then a voice came in the head. Next, I was traveling Tibet from Lhasa to Kathmandu, which was permitted as a tourist. And I really thought, oh, I really need to know more. Next, Tushita Center, Hoskas happened. Next, my teacher arrived in my life, Geshe-la. And that and today, every moment is less. Now, as an educationist and as an human resource person, expert. I don't like the word expert. None of us are expert, I think, throughout our lives. We try to know. I was in search. Why such dominant worldview, which the whole globe goes by, in terms of education and its epistemology and its method and its ways? Why that feels so hollow? So I did my job, I did my papers, I did my quota of all consulting training, whatever, but I was in search. Trust me, I really want to share with each and all of you that actually that answers I started getting here today. I'm at the very, very early stage as a student and a master's student also. Now, for today, when Geshe-la sent a message and asked me to come out and speak something on universal values in an experiential term, I thought of, okay, how can I connect the whole thing with the current education system? And I really thought that possibly, actually, I hope it makes sense to others. But today, I actually felt again like I received a blessing. Because in my search, in a very limited time, to connect to, and I'm going to show that book. I came across this lovely book. This is by no other than G.N. Devi, who's a, I would say, super scholar present in Indian scenario, a linguist from Harvard or from actually Baroda University. I just met a person here. So he has a department which he heads, and many other places. G.N. Devi ji, the book is The Crisis Within. That's exactly what we carry, the crisis within. And in the book, there were some things I decided I'm carrying the book and I'm quoting from that. Universal ethics. His Holiness Dalai Lama's vision and a dream, which we really want to somehow understand as much as we can, embody as much as we can, and create a partial of the same, the way you said, touching the million hearts. And thankfully, people like Ravi has come in the process who are actually coming out with a lot of action orientation with the new generation is very tuned with. The whole thing was, I came across it while teaching ethics paper, and I was quite fed up, of only doing Tantanian and, doing the John Rawls justice and all that. And I was thinking that this is all about like external frameworks. What do we do to the person sitting who's a receiver? Because we always talk of values, principles, but they are conversation. What happens to the life? And this question was deep within. Then I came across Ethics in New Millennium by His Holiness. Such simple concept in 2 pillars, compassion and wisdom. Be wisely compassionate and you are ethical. Such simple construction that touched my heart. So I really, I made it a part of my curriculum. I ensured the Geshe-la comes and gives some imprint to the hardcore, top percentile business students who are going to head institutions. And Ravi knows, and many of us would know, do it at the cost of not only nature, not only do it at the cost of all the money which will be consumed in few pockets, we'll do it at the cost of humanity, and we'll do it at the cost of sustainability, that there will be so much of water, air consumed and polluted that possibly we will not even have a space to live in on this earth. So this made really a lot of sense to me, and I started reading. Now there are 1 or 2 things, and I'm taking your permission because I'm making it a little academic. Okay, but I really want to, if it is okay, just read 1 or 2 things which Devi's work actually touched a chord. So he begins in this book, and it is hardcore comment on current education. What is current education? Most of us who are very, very typically, gone through the typical public schools or even sometimes government school in a big metropole would know that we are Macaulay's children, Lord Macaulay's. Lord Macaulay's children means the first initial primary education has not happened in our native languages. It has happened in English. And there is a burden of language in addition to our concept clarity, and in terms we become like robot, we replicate what we learn. Memory is dominant, understanding and internalization is not dominant. So in that pretext, now he begins, and I really want to read that from this book. He says, nearly 1 in every 6 human beings on this earth are a young Indian for whom meaningful education is of critical importance because of the sheer population we carry. In addition to the employability, it is also necessary, the education also widens our mindsets. It gives us, permission to think differently and be together. Further, if knowledge is the core of education, and if education lays the very foundation of a nation, the nation needs to reflect on the plight to which these have been reduced. Education is in crisis. I can say it confidently by being second generation in academics. More so in my generation and further down. Because technology has been boon and also has been a bane. Then, 3 things which got excluded, It's not only India. You think of majority of such countries which have cultural heritage, be it Japan, be it Africa, be it Asia, where there were nice embedding of cultural ethos and also huge legacy in terms of text and scriptures. A big question arises. What is being excluded? And so beautifully he actually came out with. What gets excluded is a culture in a way. Ethnicity. We all become egalitarian and global citizen. We forget our roots. what actually also is the theory of the knowledge, the way knowledge is taught and understood, and education and knowledge are two sides of a coin. Education is a tool, knowledge is what we internalize. Something. So question is education wholesome? And there again, His Holiness, simple concept occurs in the head. Education cannot be wholesome till the time ethical embedding is not there, values are not there. The values and morality, in the age of technology and the global generation, morality and the religious-based morality are totally crucified and sacrificed. So what is left then? We have a huge hollowness. Ravi, in terms of time, another 3-4 minutes? 5 minutes, okay. So 3 minutes of video I want to end with. So let me just come out with 1 or 2 things which I wanted to link. In case of technology, the value erosion is even more fast because this is another world where we live in. We live virtually. We live possibly even devoid of emotionality, which a very typical systemic framework requires. Otherwise, you deal with human, and the human element with the emotion and empathy actually ends up in chaos. And countries like ours in India, where we have a lot of diverse ideas, views, culture, religious background, it becomes actually like not only chaos but conflict and possibly violence many times. So basically, then he said that the whole issue is that in this case, what should we do? Education is in crisis for sure. One thing which I learned differently from the text, from Geshe-la, and one thing which I learned differently from the Western theories in terms of ethics, is all about, and this one particular academic is the last bit from my side, is about knowing. Because what is education? What is knowledge? We open a mind, we open an antenna, we know something. We cognize it. And then we start talking about it. With values, fantastic. Without values, terrible. It's like a nuclear energy. You make a constructive thing or you make a bomb. We are making bombs nowadays. So, knowing. Something which is so beautiful and it's cutting across all the global literature. But actually what I am learning from Geshe-la, from the text, Nalanda text. Knowing. I just want to read these 3-4 lines. What is knowing? That which is not thought by the mind, but which the mind is thought from. Not seen by the eyes, but by which the eyes are seen. That which is not breathed by the life, but by which the life breathes. And that is how that inner knowing is a legacy we carry. Nalanda texts were very much here. We were ignorant. His Holiness Dalai Lama has revived all that. It is coming to us. I think we are taking small step in terms of education to actually connect our inner self with external self. The crisis in the life is because we got devoid of getting connected inside with the outside. We made education an objective phenomena for objective gains. We forgot that actually so truly, I come from the Mahayana, I follow, I cannot say I belong to because I'm a beginner, school where the emptiness is something which makes sense to me. And so far with my limited language. And then, in a world and in an education system where everything is for outcome, objectivity, ultimately the greed prevails, greed is prevailing. We have been violent, we have really not been educated. Knowledge is a commodity which has been sold and we get crucified in the turn. What can we do? We take our small steps. Something which actually started happening in my life, I started taking it to first individuals, which is research students. So research on Vipassana. And would you believe it, after nth amount of interviews, this teaching professor now, Himanshu Dhaka. Makes his presentation, and ultimately three things come out completely in the non-Buddhist framework. He is just doing his bit of research in the qualitative framework. What comes out? Intention, attention, and attitude. So what we intend, there our attention goes. Where attention goes, that is who we become. Such simple three English words. Though, in this class, we know that sea like depth we carry within these three words. My second thing was to take it to students through His Holiness series of books. Third was something which is a fantasy or possibly a dream, where Professor Ravindran, Ravi I call him, is also helping, where we actually already had on 11th of September CXO dialogue, where we are throwing the concept of His Holiness Universal Ethics as compassion and wisdom, and trying to come out with fitting into that so that the ears can receive what we are trying to say, to come out with that, please, objective it is and fine, understand the process is from the subject, the human beings. We have to understand, all of us have to understand, incorporate especially a dominant region of the globe which runs government today and actually is creating very consumption or oriented objective society, but needs to exist with due respect to us, because it is important for us. With a subjective understanding means understanding of human presence within the organizations. This is an aspiration. Experientially, we have begun with. We are carrying a lot of research, lot of framework. Other part of the globe, my other colleagues are also doing a lot of such stuff. Mindfulness has taken the fancy of the best of professors from Harvard onwards, thankfully, because of the presence of His Holiness and so many other teachers all over the globe. Compassion is one where we are working. And just to close this part, right now we are at the point where we feel that possibly with few years to go by, the vision of His Holiness on universal ethics, where each one of us is wisely compassionate, can be a property not only of the followers of Buddhism, not only the followers of other religion, possibly non-believers and beyond religion, and possibly a property of education system and the work and organizations. With that aspiration, I want to close this by saying that why it is critical to understand His Holiness framework of universal ethics based on compassion and wisdom. And the only way I can express it in very, very brief is 2 minutes video, by which I'm going to end, that by not being human, by not being compassionate to each other, what are we already doing to the globe and where we are going to end. So instead of me saying anything, possibly we just go through this 2 minutes of video and I'll treat it as close. Thank you. Yeah,
Hi, sound. So good morning, everyone. When's the last minute for a picture? Today we're here to draw a picture. So what you see here are some crayons, colors in each box. Choose your colors wisely, because there will be another group coming in after you and making another picture with what you leave behind. Thank you. So here we have the other group. Everybody say hi. Why don't we show the kids the pictures that we've drawn? So nice. Why don't you show them what you drew?
It's all black. We all took away the bright colors.
I wish I wasn't this selfish, taking away all the bright colors.
Maybe we could have broken the colors and left half of them for them and for the next group.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Tanuja. A picture says more than 1,000 words. What does a video do? Million words? Okay, for our next speaker, no introductions. Robin?
Oh, I thought it was third.
I'm not sure whether our third speaker is here.
You what?
Okay. Azla. Nizla. Nils. I broke my specs, okay, so I'm not able to read from it. Right, it's gone, so pardon this. Okay. 20 minutes, you're on.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to start with a video, 5-minute video. I think it introduces the work much better than I possibly could.
You know, I think we started getting like so focused on theater because we really realized how much it can be used as a tool for mindset change, like changing people's minds about sex work, about red light areas, about these girls.
डांस करने से मेरा थेरेपी जैसा बढ़ जाता है. गाना गाते तो मैं शांत नहीं पाती. एक्टिंग इसलिए कर रही हूँ कि मुझे बहुत पसंद है.
Strength and the ability of human spirit to bounce back.
When I was 10, I was abused. What happened to you when you were 10? What happened to you when you were 10? What happened to you when you were 10?
Spent the first third of your show crying.
So the people who don't believe in what we do are never going to believe in what we do.
I really, really admire you girls for the smile, the braveness to come out and say what has happened in your life.
मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो गए आपसे.
The way Jaya's done theatre with them is extremely therapeutic for them.
Thank you for coming to share your story.
₹100-200
Why do you call it red light area? Again and again.
We want to say, yes, we are from that red light area.
उम्र हो जाते थे लोग को 50-60 रुपए में वो लोग काम करते हैं.
We could all, between us try to explain to them why they should change the way that they think or the way that they talk about themselves, or we can take on the task of changing the world's perspective, and that's what we've chosen to do.
अगले शो में हमारा जहाँ पे भी होगा तुम दोनों का रोल इंटरसेक्ट होगा.
Do you want to change the story? Yeah! Do you want to change the story? Yeah! Do you want to change the
There's no education that can replace the kind that they're receiving now by traveling and interacting with numerous people.
The survivors of trafficking that we meet in New York, and then there's these multi-million-dollar houses in Naperville, Illinois, and the world between those and the difference between those.
वही तो challenging था कि घर ढूंढना, because किसी को भी हमारे background के बारे में पता चलता है तो everyone avoid.
कि हम normal जिंदगी नहीं जी सकते हैं.
He sexually abused me when I was young. हर एक पल याद आ रहा था कि उसने कब मुझे किस जगह पर मारा.
मैं proudly बोलना चाहूँगी कि हाँ मैं रड्डी की बेटी हूँ, but आज उसकी बेटी बहुत आगे बढ़ी.
Everyone's wounded in some way. Everyone, poor, rich, American, Indian, Asian, white, black, everyone is.
Yes, we are wounded, but you're wounded healers. And so everywhere you go, you heal.
I'm going to take your smiles and use that as my strength all the time.
The real answer is that I just want all of them to live happy lives, right?
मुस्कुराने की वजह
there are some girls who we work with who really struggle with depression, self-harm. Everything looks nice and pretty on the stage and beautiful and afraid, but there's a lot of things that we really, really struggle with. And if those girls can just make it through life without committing suicide, or if they can just survive life and be happy and quit harming themselves, that's it.
Folks, welcome Robin Chaurasia. Robin is the founder of Kranti India, an NGO that empowers girls from Mumbai's red light areas to become agents of social change. In the past 5 years, Kranti's girls have become the first girls from India's red light area to study abroad, received UN awards for their social justice work, given TEDx and other speeches around the world, written, directed, and performed their own play in front of 100,000 plus audiences. Kranti's informal school was also nominated for the Global Teacher Prize. Robin Chaurasia.
That was way too much. Okay, I'm also going to just check if you're awake. Raise your hand if you're awake. That's only about half, guys. Not impressive. Okay, thanks, Asha Ji, for giving us double. Raise your hand if you had a good lunch. Yeah? Okay, good. All right, cool. I'm not a professor. I'm not a doctor. And guess what? I don't know anything about ethics at all. So, good luck. Here I am. And basically, as you know, this was about experiential sharing. So I'm just going to share the stories that what I have learned from working with these girls at Kranti the past couple of years. So as he said, Kranti is basically an organization that empowers girls from Mumbai's red light areas to become agents of social change. Theater is just one part of what we do. We have a shelter home where the girls all live with us and everything, education, healthcare, we take care of absolutely everything. But I'm not going to bore you with all the details of our programs. I'm going to tell you what the girls do. But there's a lot of question and answer, and my questions are not rhetorical, so I will be expecting answers. Okay, cool. So I think when we all talk about success or the definition of success, right? Many people who've spoken earlier today have talked about a lot of these things, especially education-wise, the pressure we put on our children to do well in school. I'm going to share with you some of the success stories of Kranti, and then I'm going to share to you what real success means to me. So this is Shweta. She was actually when she was 18, she became the first girl from a red light area ever to study abroad. And she's the one who won the award from the UN alongside Malala from the UN. I could share her as a success story, right? These are the Sheikh sisters, and they all started working when they were about the age of 5, and they've all grown up in NGOs their entire life. Amreen on the left is 16, and she studies at the Model School for the Deaf in Washington, D.C. Danish studies in her second year of her psychology degree in Chicago. And Farah on the right, she's 23, and she's studying in her third year of her bachelor's for psychology in Los Angeles. This could be another example of success. Our 3 youngest girls are all studying in some of the best boarding schools across the world, actually. One of them is in a boarding school just outside Bangalore, a Krishnamurti school. Another one is in a boarding school in Missouri, one of the top 10 boarding schools in India. And the third youngest one is in a boarding school in just outside of London. This could also be a success story. This is Kavita. She is 23, and she basically after 12 decided that she wanted to work with an NGO, and she now, after finishing 12, like literally, she got a job as working at an organization in Bangalore, earning 30,000, which is something that's absolutely unthinkable for girls from this background. She could also be a success story. But I want to tell you what the real success means to us at Kranti. The first question that I have for you, are you guys still awake? Yeah? Okay, the first question I have for you, and for those of you who follow His Holiness, you already have the answer. But that's the question. What is the purpose of life? Anyone? Anyone? Come on, guys. There's no right or wrong. Propagation. Anyone else? Dr. Tanuja.
I will just complete it. First propagate, then kill it.
Okay.
Comments, presents, everything.
Okay. So for any of you who have followed His Holiness, I think one of the things that really struck me about his teaching is the purpose of life is to seek and find happiness, right? That's what all of us are doing. Everything that we do is in the pursuit of happiness, whether it's being here to learn about something, whether it's spending time with your friends, whatever it is, we're doing it in the pursuit of happiness. And for those of you who would say, no, I'm just concerned about money, I don't want happiness. What do you want the money for? Happiness, right? So we're all living for happiness and seeking and pursuing that happiness. And yet this girl, Pinky, she's 20 now, but she came to Kranti when she was 14 years old. She was trafficked at age 9. Basically had to have an abortion when she came to Kranti. She is somebody who has a lot of mental health issues, borderline personality. She does a lot of self-harm. She has never been to school. She has dyslexia, never been in mainstream school. What I look at Pinky every single day and what I learn from her every single day is that aside from those days where she wakes up and has her difficult days, she spends 90% of her day laughing and making everyone around her laugh. And whenever I look at her, I think to myself, after everything that she's been through, if she can laugh every day, why can't I? And this is, to me, literally how I measure success is looking at Pinky and just watching her laugh all the time. And one of the other things that's been really incredible is that we have a shrine in our house with green Tara and with Buddha that Geshe-la brought to our house. And these days when she cuts herself, she sits in front of that shrine and looks at the Buddha statue after she cuts herself. So to me, that is success. This is Sheetal. She's 23 now as well. She came to Kranti when she was 17, only been in 4th and 7th standard, and at age 12 she started working full-time. And she was working as a domestic worker. She had to finish all of the household work before she was given her one meal of the day. So she came to us at 17, and we put her into 10th standard. And she kept failing. But the biggest lesson that I got from Sheetal was, and I'd like to ask you guys as well, what is success, right? How do we measure Sheetal's success? I think some of the people who spoke earlier also talked about how, what are we doing to our children, right? Success is all about make sure, especially if you're Indian, right? Better be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, and that's it. There is no other success outside of that. So you better do really well in school so you can go to a really good college. You better go to a good college so that you can get a nice job, and then you better get that nice job so you can have a big house and 3 cars and 5 iPhones, right? And that's going to be success. So when Shito came, without hope of any of those things, I really had to take a pause and think about what success means. And being, as much as I'd like to pretend I'm outside of these things, I am Indian American, and I did have these ideas about how education's just the solution to everything. And as long as she gets an education, everything will be fine. Guess what? She never got that education. So after 10th, she kept failing in 10th, and then the therapist said to us, why don't you just put her in something she enjoys doing? Why are you forcing her to feel like a failure every day at school? So the only thing she enjoyed at that time is that she was taking drum class, and she would come home from drum class every day and bang on the stick with her, like, you know, with her sticks on the floor until we take away her sticks. So we said, okay, let's try drum class. And we applied to every single music school in India, and nobody accepted her because they said she doesn't speak English, she hasn't passed 10th, she's not going to fit in here. So then we said, screw you. We applied to 2 music schools in the UK and 2 in the US, and everyone accepted her. And she got a full scholarship to go study music in Washington for 9 months. She came back to India, and she worked as a music therapist using the djembe, and basically worked with young children and children of sex workers, children of migrant laborers, children from different communities, Teach for India schools, Akansha schools, that kind of thing. And then I realized that success is the smile on the faces of all those kids who are holding a drum for the first time because of Shito. And success is also the smile that Shito has on her face when she's drumming. I don't know if you guys smile that much when you're working, but if she can do that as work and bring a smile to that many people's face every single day, that is success. And this girl now, she works in Mumbai, and she works with about 25 different schools and 650 teenage girls. And she uses music therapy as well as gender empowerment workshops to work with these 600 plus students every day. Raise your hand if you affect 600 people every day. Anyone? Anyone? I don't know. I don't either. Third, if you follow His Holiness, you know all the answers already. But one of the other questions, the big questions that I always have is, how do we get to living a meaningful life? Come on, guys. I said no rhetorical questions. If you open up any of His Holiness's books, you will see it's very simple. We start to live a meaningful life when we start living for other people. Right? And this woman on the left, her name is Zarina. She was trafficked when she was 9. From the ages when she turned 11 and had her first period, she was auctioned off to the highest bidder, who turned out to be a police officer, and thus began her life as a sex worker. This woman is one of the most generous people I have ever met in my life. But you know when I learned what generosity meant and what therefore success means? Is the day that one of our other girls' mothers died, and I was in Delhi at the time, and I called her and I said, can you take care of, whatever's going on in Mumbai? And a lot of times, I've heard this from the girls, I've never seen this personally, but the girls say if a sex worker dies in Mumbai and they don't have family to take care of them, their body will just be in the street until the BMC, until like the government comes along to pick it up. Exactly what happens when dogs die, right? So a lot of times these women are literally in the street. When this woman called me back, she said, don't worry, Robin, I've got everything under control. And raise your hand if you think sex work is an easy job. No one? No one? Okay. She said, I don't care how many people I have to sleep with. I'm going to make sure that this woman has a proper cremation or burial, and I'm going to make sure that every single person who dies in this entire community has a proper cremation or burial, no matter how many relatives they have or don't have. We think of ourselves as so generous when we roll down our window and give somebody 5 rupees, right? I'm really curious how many people, I don't know, I have asked this of myself many times, but I'm curious how many of you could say, I'm going to sleep with as many people as it takes. I will do whatever it takes on earth to gather enough money to give a stranger a burial or a cremation. I've never talked to this person in my life. Right? And those are the moments that make me step back and wonder, yes, I come to Tibet House. Yes, I go to Geshe-la's teachings, but do I have compassion like she has? That I don't know. So she is my other definition of success. And lastly, one of the other people who's really taught me about the definition of success is somebody named Ashi. And she also, just after 12, she was just like, I'm done with this studying crap. My purpose in life is to help people. And she spent about a year working with special needs kids and also working with Ghar Banao Ghar Bachao Andolan in Mumbai, working with homeless people and youth in Mumbai. And then since then, she moved to Delhi. And for a year, she's been working in the red light areas here in GB Road, basically working with sex workers, organizing them, organizing the children, events for them, and things like that. But But the thing that's really special about her is that the girls, including Pinky, the girls at Kranti with the most serious special needs, when they have a crisis, they don't call me. They call Ashi. And literally, there are days when, I'm not kidding you, the last time I was in Delhi, one of the girls called her and was like, "Main train ke samne koodne wali hu." And Ashi's like, "Ek ghanta ruk ja behan, Robert so rahi hai. I'll call you back," you know? And literally, that hour was the hour that it took to save her life, right? But to me, how I define my success now is because for the girls who are in her house who might not will never make it academically or might not even be able to hold down a job, she always says to me, "Please don't worry about them. If you die, if Kranti shuts down, whatever happens, I will always take care of them." And for many people who have come and spoken here before, I know it's a lot of academic stuff to talk about borderline personality, to talk about ADD, to talk about all these things. Have you lived with these people? And can you honestly say, I would sacrifice the rest of my life in order to take care of them? So that to me is now my definition of success, that my kids are able to speak like this. And just to point her out, Ashi's in the audience here. So can you stand up for a second? So just to give you some food for thought, because as I said, not a professor, not a doctor, don't have any of those awesome letters behind or before my name, but these are kind of the big things that I've learned and the people that I've learned them from. What did you do today to spread happiness? Because Pinky made a lot of people smile. How many people did you make smile today? Because Sheetal has been working with 600 students almost every single day. Who, besides yourself, did you live for today? Because Zarina lives for her entire community, even though she doesn't know them. And lastly, who did you love unconditionally today, regardless of the hardships that they've given you? Now, you're probably wondering what on earth a woman with an American accent is doing in the red light areas of Mumbai, right? Sorry, we're taking photos. Basically, I grew up in the US, and you know how everyone growing up in the US, you grew up with a wonderful, happy life, right? I grew up in the suburbs of Seattle. My father was an engineer, and my mother has schizophrenia, my father was bipolar, and my house was completely just full of domestic violence. The only childhood memories I have, or the earliest childhood memories I have, are of my parents trying to burn each other with irons, and my sister and I, at 3 or 4 years old, trying to break them apart. And in some way, now that I've come to Dharma and realized what a huge lesson that was and how grateful and lucky I am to have experienced that. Because as a child, even at 8, 9, 10 years old, it made me realize, hey, wait a second, my dad is an engineer, we have a giant house, we have those 3 cars in the garage. Why is nobody happy? So I think at a very young age, I realized that none of these things buy happiness. And as much as I'd like to tell you that I was really smart and brilliant at the age of 12, I figured out that I don't have to do all those things and I can just skip it, earning money and having a good job. I didn't learn so fast. So I spent 7 years in the US Air Force, and I had a Mustang convertible, and I had a beautiful house and all of those things, right? But somehow, something, somewhere still did not give me the happiness that I was seeking. So then I eventually moved to India and started Kranti. And it was, I think, 2 or 3 years into this work. And believe me, as much as these beautiful smiling girls and all these wonderful photos, life is not just perfect, right? I spend a lot of time being beaten up in jail. I spend a lot of time talking to and negotiating with traffickers. I spend a lot of time trying to dig up compassion from the deepest recess of my heart when I meet people who have been raping these girls for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. And every day is a moment to practice, because there's nothing you can do besides breathe in, breathe out, and just know that, yes, this person also wants happiness, and he is suffering just as much as me, or maybe more than me, right? But that being said, I was very, very lucky one day, and I can still remember exactly where I was standing and what I was wearing, that I picked up The Art of Happiness and randomly opened to it. And many people don't believe His Holiness when he says that you will only find happiness in living for other people, or you'll only find a meaningful life when you live for other people. But I was so, so, so lucky that when I read that sentence, I just had this genuine internal knowledge that this entire book sitting in my hands was the most the closest thing to truth that I will ever encounter. And I'm very lucky that I had already lived and experienced that, yes, it is the giving of yourself that brings happiness. It is the teaching of compassion that teaches you compassion. And I think more than anything, regardless of not being a professor or a doctor, I am probably the person on earth with the best job I can imagine. Don't tell the girls I said that. And I think the best learning environment and the growth environment, spiritually, emotionally, everything that you can possibly imagine. And I think besides these questions, because I have such amazing people to pose these questions to you, I guess I would also just, pose one last question to you, which is, how much are you willing to push yourself in your practice? We talk about, who was it earlier that said, who are aspiring meditators, right? Somebody had asked. Are you aspiring bodhisattvas? Right? So that's just, I think that we live our life every single day, and believe me, I know how easy it is to get caught up in, oh, there's no time for meditation, or there's no time to, help out this other person. But every single moment in your life is a moment to be the person that you want to be. Every single moment is a chance to practice compassion. Every single moment is a chance to live with wisdom. So lastly, I just want to close with a really quick story. I think all of us who know Geshe-la and have had the chance to experience His Holiness's love and compassion as well. So we're very privileged because we don't know how that translates into most people don't know how it translates into real life. But one of the things that Dharma really taught me was to just give it all up. And if you actually genuinely believe in karma, to just let it live out how it's going to, right? So I've done some very stupid things in life, but one of the stupid things I did was that video at the beginning, right? So basically, this was in 2015, 4 years ago. Ashi was 17 at the time, so that's why she was hiding her face. And she's the one who asked, when I was 10, I was abused. What happened to you when you were 10? And before, we were traveling for almost 2 months, and I cannot explain to you, I spent an entire month literally writing emails and, getting all the responses. All of the shows were organized. Everything was planned. The Hilton was putting us up in all these cities. JetBlue was sponsoring all of our domestic flights in the US. It was just an absolute miracle that anything came together. But in 3 days before the first performance was supposed to happen, I had no international flights. I had no visas, and I had $1,000 in the bank account. And some guy called me and said, hey, I really want to talk to you about education for the girls. And I was like, listen, dude, I really don't have time right now. Can I get back to you in a couple months? He says, no, I'm about to travel abroad. You need to come soon. And I went and spoke to him. We talked about education. And then I told him about this theater situation. And I said, everything's set. I just have no way to get there. And he said, you just got there. And he took out his checkbook and wrote me a 6 lakh check. And I went home and I booked all of the flights. And the next day I went into the US consulate with 18 passports in my hand. And this guy just looked at me like, excuse me? And he was so generous. We're good friends now. And he said, let me see what I can do. 24 hours later, 4 p.m., we get the passports back. 8 p.m., we're on a plane. We landed in New York and I bought metro passes for everyone, 7-day metro passes, $920 gone. We went to the place where we were staying, dropped off the bags, went straight to the first performance because that was literally how late we were. The performance is going on stage, and I'm sitting in the audience in the front row thinking, what do you feed 20 people for $80 in New York? How many boxes of pasta can I buy? How many boxes of sauce can I buy? And some guy comes up to me after the play and gives me $3,000. And every single city on it went. In Washington, $5,000. And to me, one promise that I've always made myself is, so what if these girls have nobody? I'm going to treat them like they're my own children, and I'm going to raise them like they're my own children. Where are my children going to go to school? They're going to go to the best boarding schools in the world, right? Where are my children going to go on trips? We took the girls whitewater rafting in Yellowstone and on mule rides in the Grand Canyon, right? It was such an incredible miracle, if you will. And I think we also went to the UK 2 years ago as well. And basically, same thing. I just kept planning as we went and stuff. And literally, we were supposed to be in Dublin and had 4 performances lined up. But in the 2 days beforehand, we had no place to stay in Dublin. And we had ferry tickets to get there and everything. I stayed up all night emailing every single organization in Cardiff, refugee centers, women's shelters, everything, saying, can we come stay? We're 20 people, right? And everyone's like, no. And finally, there was a sex worker who was coming to speak on a panel after our program. And I emailed her and she said, I think I can put 10 people on my floor. And I was like, lady, you're white. If you can fit 10, I can fit 20. And so all 20 of us went, and we seriously slept on her floor, and I carried a big pressure cooker around the UK. We made dal chawal every day. And at night, these women, the sex workers and her friends, would buy the girls pizza and just sit around and talk all night about who was trafficked where, and, you know, how they got into sex work and the politics of sex work in the UK and India and all these kind of things. And I think the biggest lesson for the girls is just literally about the fact that the negative or difficult things that they've experienced, that somehow that can be overcome, and that sometimes it's absolute strangers who will open their hearts and their homes and their wallets and everything to support you on a journey that is absolutely crazy. So I think that those journeys have really defined our life, and we're very blessed and lucky, of course, to have teachers like this in our life, but also to have the support of random strangers and everyone around the world. So thank you. That's it. I would encourage you to keep these questions in mind every day. Thank you.
You know, this is the first time in a session like this, I couldn't bring myself to stop you. And I think everyone in the room would agree with me that if I had tried to stop you, they would have stopped me, right? No, this was wonderful. You know, and before you go, no, you got to listen to this and then go. You know, you said you don't know about ethics. I want to tell you that you don't know about ethics, but you taught ethics. At least to me. Ethics to me is a code with which we live. It's the sanctions of the mind. You know, the ability to see right from wrong, good from bad. That is ethics. So you didn't need to know it. You taught it, and thank you very much.
It's not me, it's the kids who are the ones doing the teaching.
Thank you, Ravi. Nilza, you have a job in hand. The bar has been set so high. Okay. Nilza Wangmo graduated from Lady Sri Ram College. She did her master's in Buddhist philosophy from Delhi University and recently finished her PhD from JNU. Her area of interest is science and Buddhist philosophy. She's currently working for the global launch of SEE, Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning, the K-12 framework and curricula prepared by Emory University with the vision and support of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This launch is in the next couple of weeks, 5th and 6th, if I'm not mistaken, of April. And I am very privileged to be here because I'm looking to her as our future, where we can take through SEE the learnings of universal ethics to students in the K-12 band. Nilza, privileged to have you here.
So, thank you. So I'll have to sit because I need to go through the curriculum, the framework, because I'm going to share some of the material. And I think it's very interesting. And so universal ethics is something which all of us have heard about from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And when I got to know about C-learning, which is social, emotional, and ethical learning, I didn't make the connection because, and later I realized that it was actually the Dalai Lama's big vision of universal ethics, which the Emory University has over the past almost 2 decades has worked on and created such wonderful curriculum, which will be launched in April 5th and 6th, and it'll be put on the portal, Emory portal, and the best thing is it'll be free for anybody to take up. And so I'm going to start with
These are just some of my thoughts that I jotted down. So when I don't know. I mean, it's ethics. Explaining ethics is one of the most difficult things, I guess. So in my opinion, I realized there are different ways of looking at it. And from the theistic and non-theistic context, for me, I have my personal experience when it comes to theistic and non-theistic because as a child, at the age of 6, I was sent to a Christian missionary school. And being born in a Buddhist Ladakhi, I'm from Ladakh, so being born in a Buddhist, very traditional family, I ended up learning about the Bible, and at one point I almost converted to Christianity, and there were lots of debates going on in my mind. So growing up as a child, I learned about what's good and bad, what's against the Bible, the Word of God. So I think it was my mental conditioning that I was taught the definition of a good, ethical and non-ethical in a very theistic context. And then I came to Delhi for my college, and that's when I met Geshe-la. And then I started learning about the non-theistic tradition. So over the past many years, I've been actually questioning myself, what exactly is ethics, And so I came down to my own personal understanding, and I've just jotted 2 lines. So I've realized that I think any action or thought that degenerates our physical and mental health, I would say, is non-ethical. Whereas a lot of times we relate ethics to something good and bad in a very judgmental sense, and I think that leads to a lot of you tend to judge the others, you tend to judge yourself, and that creates a lot of problems. And I recently figured out that there's Richard William Paul and Linda Elder, who also defined ethics in the similar context, and I was quite surprised. A set of concepts and principles that guide us determining what behavior helps or harms sentient beings. So that's just my understanding. And so I took these few lines from Beyond Religion of His Holiness. It is through giving warmth and affection, through being genuinely concerned for others, in other words, through compassion, that we gain the condition for genuine happiness. And I think, as Robin very clearly stated and made us all realize, that the ultimate goal in our lives is to be happy, right? So, and that happiness is just not sensorial happiness, but genuine happiness, which in the Buddhist context, if we read, if we delve deeper into the Buddhist traditions, we talk about 2 levels of happiness, sensorial happiness and mental happiness, which leads to a long-term happiness when you get in touch with the mental peace at the mental level. So and also, now I'm going to go back to sea learning. So Mahatma Gandhi has said, if we want to reach real peace in the world, we shall have to begin with children. And ironically, when I went to college, I was in one of my classes, and on the desk somebody had scribbled, "I was born intelligent, but education ruined me." And at that time I was completely naive, and I was asking myself, what does this mean? I mean, this is completely something I've never heard of. And I thought maybe somebody's mistaken. But after many years, I realized, actually, and especially, and then I think, I'm sure many of us have been through that experience. And I am, not just me, I think we all are very thankful to His Holiness the Dalai Lama for coming up with such a wonderful concept of universal ethics, which I think A lot of people have tried to, but he being such a personality who reaches out to the whole world has been able to bring us together to talk about universal ethics. I mean, if I go out and talk about a new concept, I'm sure nobody would listen to me. So I think we are really blessed and happy that His Holiness has inspired this Emory team to create something so wonderful. And I'll go down a bit and I'll just... So this C learning, social, emotional, ethical learning, is a K-12 education program at Emory. And it's an easy to use curriculum. Okay, I won't read, but it's for students and educators for their holistic development based on scientific research. And this is a constructivist, student-focused pedagogy that focuses on the cultivation of compassion and other basic human values and ethical intelligence. So this C-learning curriculum, it focuses on attention training, compassion for self and others, resiliency skills, systems thinking, ethical discernment. And C-learning has been developed with the help of a team of experts in developmental psychology, education, neuroscience, as well as with the vision and support of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who's long called for an education of the heart and mind and a universal, non-sectarian approach to bringing the ethical development of the whole child into education. So, C-learning framework and curricula would be accessible internationally on portal after the launch in April. And it's being translated into 14 languages, which is like 6 UN languages, and Hindi, Tibetan, Portuguese, Czech, Korean, Mongolian, German, Italian. So yeah, the whole world is out there ready to take it. And it has 4 modules: early elementary, late elementary, middle school, and high school. So I'm going to go back to just the basic framework of C-learning. So their approach is very much grounded in the ancient Indian wisdom, where we have 3 ways of reaching out to knowledge. The first is received knowledge, ability to employ knowledge based on instruction or experiential learning, like all the news and the new, whatever we take through our 5 senses. And then comes the critical insight. So this is not my work, I must say. I should give the due credit to the Emory team. I'm just here, promoting. So I did a short workshop in South India with the Emory team in January. So they call it the aha moment of the critical insight, aha moment, personal aha moments arising from in-depth study and sustained analysis. So my aha moment of this line, which I read in college, I was born intelligent, but education ruined me. That came after many years. So, so I would say that was my critical insight. And then comes the embodied understanding. Knowledge that has been internalized to become transformative and spontaneous. So these are the ways and means by they have prepared these modules for children. And the other very interesting thing that they've done is they have 3 domains and 3 dimensions is what they call. The personal domain, the social domain, and systemic domain. And the 3 dimensions are awareness, compassion, and engagement. So if they put it in this grid, they have something called 9 components of the domains and dimensions. And I didn't really put everything, but I'm going to explain just from the framework, just very briefly. So personal with awareness is attention and self-awareness. So it has three points under it: attention to our body and sensation, notice and describe sensations in the body and understand how they arise, how they relate to stress and well-being. And the second is attention to emotions. Attend to and identify one's emotions in type and intensity as they arise. And the third is map of emotions. Categorize emotions in relation to one's experience and to existing emotion models. So attention and personal is attention and self-awareness. The second is self-compassion, which is personal and compassion. So compassion, which is directed towards the self. And that has understanding emotions in context. So you look at your emotions and basically, give yourself that space. Understand how emotions arise within the context of underlying needs, perceptions, attitudes, and situations. And then something very important, I feel, is the second point is self-acceptance. Accept oneself and one's emotions by understanding their context, allowing for a relation of self-judgment. So I think these are all related to ethics, So, and the third is engagement with personal is self-regulation. So you balance the body, balancing the body and nervous system to optimize well-being, especially when affected by stress, cognitive and impulse control, and navigating emotions. So these all come under the self-regulation. And from personal, we go to the social, which is our immediate environment. So there we have the awareness of our social environment that we call awareness. And in interpersonal awareness, they have attending to our social reality, attending to our shared reality with others, and appreciating diversity, differences. And the next, when we extend compassion to our immediate social surrounding, that's compassion for others. It has another 3 points. Understanding others' feelings and emotions in context, appreciating and cultivating kindness and compassion, appreciating and cultivating other ethical dispositions. And the third, when you engage in our social domain, it's relationship skills and emphatic listening attentively with the purpose of more fully understanding others and their needs. Actually, in this whole curriculum, they have put a lot of stress on emphatic listening, because every day we're meeting, a lot of people, and most of the time we're not listening. We're only talking. So this is, I think, a very good exercise for young kids, even for us, not just young kids. And the second is skillful communication. Communicate compassionately in a way that empowers self and others, and helping others, and conflict transformation. So these points come under relationship skills. And then this one unique thing about this curriculum is it just doesn't go they just don't talk within the social and personal domain, but they put a lot of emphasis on systemic domain. And that's where a lot of questions come up. Personally, after I went to JNU, I had a lot of questions and a lot of, I would say, whatever I'd learned, I had to unlearn and relearn, redefine things. So yeah, I think for one to actually grow ethically, I think you need to really, at one point in life, you need to answer questions that, put you at that systemic level where you're engaging with the cosmos and the universe at large. So So the systemic awareness would be appreciating interdependence, which is again a very big pratitya samutpad in, the big concept taught by Buddha. I don't know. I avoid using the word Buddhism, Buddhists. So, because I like to say Buddha's teachings, because, isms and ists were never existent during Buddha's times. I think he never wanted them to, so, yeah. I'll just read the 3 points. Appreciating interdependence, understanding interdependent systems, comprehend the interrelated nature of our world and the methods of systems thinking. Second is individuals within a system's context. Recognize how all individuals exist within a system context and how they affect and are affected by that context. And the second last is compassion towards the systemic domain, recognizing common humanity, and that has appreciating the fundamental equality of all. Extend the realization of fundamental equality and common humanity to those outside one's immediate community and ultimately to the world. And appreciating how systems affect well-being. Recognize how systems can promote or compromise well-being on cultural and structural levels, such as by promoting positive values or perpetuating problematic beliefs and inequalities. So I think Robin was talking about how she went to New York and how everybody just, made you feel like you're part of them. So I think this is where recognizing common humanity comes in. And the last one is global and community and global engagement. And it has 2 points: exploring one's potential for effecting positive change in community and world, engaging in communal and global solutions. So basically, I think this will be accessible on the website after April. So it's a very interesting framework, I would say. And I think all of us should go through it, And not just for schools, but any institutions you can apply. So yeah, I don't have much, but a little experience. I've been working for the C-Learning launch since the last 6 months. And one thing I'd like to share is, though I was last 5 at the university campus. Yeah, so when I was working on the C-Learning, what we were doing is reaching out to different schools and organizations working for education all over India and abroad. So one interesting thing I came across is there are so many civil society organizations. I mean, there's so many, and everybody has the same goal and same vision. And I think I realized this event would be so wonderful because thank you. So I think this event, we are planning to bring together all the like-minded people, and not just in the educational background, but universities and even like what you're doing, and even art, therapy, all kinds, where we are using ethics, universal ethics, as the basic framework. So any one of you in the audience would like to, join, please do write to me. Yeah, we'd be happy to have. And I think Dr. Raviji is coming, Meenakshi's coming, so I know a lot of people here who are joining. So yeah, and that's all I have, not much.
Thank you, Nilza.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we have got into tea time. So, would you like to go for tea, or are there some questions would you like to answer? Tea, right? Sure. All of us are there, and feel free to engage with them and catch them during the tea sessions itself. And Tanuja, Nilza, and Robin, thank you very much. But please don't run away. Be there. I've just made a commitment to them on your behalf. All right? Would you kindly come on, Tanuja, please? Well done.
I would like to thank each and everyone, Chairperson Dr. Ravindraji and all the speakers for a wonderful session. Like I promised all the audience that we are going to have the very interesting session. We had, right? Yes, of course we had. So last I want to once again thank you, and then for this I want to request Dr. Renuka Singh ji here to give token of appreciation and thanks and honor the speakers and chairperson with the khatas and souvenirs. Dr. Renuka Singh ji. First, I would like to request Renuka ji, please honor souvenir and khataks to Chairperson Ravinder ji.
You have to give me a doctorate.
Yeah, round of applause up. Yes, thank you. Then we have Dr. Tanuja ji, Tanuja Sharma. Then we have Miss Robin Chorishia, yeah. The girl which inspires us the most. Yes, together. And then last, Miss Nilza Angula. Miss Nilza Angula. Okay, thank you everyone. Now we can proceed to our tea break session and then enjoy your tea. And then, of course, please come again for our next session. That would be again very interesting. That is also experiential sharing on the universal ethics. Yes, thank you.